So I was at school the other day, a small prep school in Sussex. They have, believe it or not, something in the order of 22 minibuses. And they were all parked in the car park, and they're all got their signage on them with the school's logo, as it were, and it's all great. Except that the average age, when I looked at these buses, as I walked in through the front door, I stopped and took a good look. The average age of those minibuses was 7 years. Some of the buses were as old as 10 years. Now clearly there's an issue here, because at some point the school's got to start replacing those buses with new vehicles. And if you think about it, if you wanted to replace 20 vehicles overnight, it would be an extraordinary amount of expenditure. Even if you said, well look, we're going to replace 5 or 6 vehicles in the course of each year over the next 5 years, you're still talking about a significant outlay. And there are obviously lots of challenges for a head teacher, a school bursar to consider. You know, they're being put upon to invest in a whole range of areas, and you know, transportation isn't necessarily seen as a priority. So what we can do in those circumstances is we could, for example, offer to buy all of the existing vehicles from the school and lease them back to the school. And that immediately transfers all the risks associated with running older vehicles away from the school to us. It also gives the school an immediate cash injection, and then it starts us on a process where we can gradually introduce new vehicles as they defleet old stock. So that's just an example of where we can be quite creative and quite supportive. And indeed, oftentimes when we're providing a new minibus to a school, the school will say to us, well look, we've got this old minibus, we don't know what to do with it, and we're quite happy to help them dispose of it. So it's quite interesting when you actually sit down with schools and explore their individual requirements. We've also got schools who've never had a minibus before, and I can tell you that when we arrive delivering the first minibus to a school, it's quite an occasion. Oftentimes the children will come out with the teachers, and it's almost like, you know, the coach is coming in. It's a very, very happy time. But for schools that have never had a minibus before, it's a bit of a learning curve, and what we're trying to do there is provide great advice at the beginning, a lot of hand holding, and you know, working with the school to make sure that they got the right bus that's fit for purpose. So it's a little bit about providing experienced consultation, using the resource that we have at our disposal in terms of understanding fleet. Being owned by the Bank of Ireland, we're in a fantastic position to provide good competitive financing, and of course the school needs to know that when they enter into any kind of financial transaction, they're doing it with a reputable organisation. One of the things I would just like to mention on that is a lot of our competitors, and there aren't that many people in this market, but there's a good 5 or 6 primary players. They're not actually lending their own money. They're not actually using their own resources. They're essentially brokers. So the difference with us is we're actually putting our money where our mouth is, and you're dealing contractually with ourselves, not a third party. And I think that's really important. In fact, I can't emphasize enough how important I think that is.